Hey there, welcome. This is Rusty Drift RC here. Today I'm going to start my Tamiya CC-01 build. I'm starting with the CC-01 land feeder kit, but I will not be using the land feeder body. I've got something special in mind for this, so that'll come later. I'm going to be going over a few tips and tricks in this build. Won't be a full in-depth build, but I'll be going over some key areas and some key modifications that I think are important to address different issues that are inherent with this kit. So let me get started here, and I hope you enjoy. The first mod I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and remove the brick on the front of the chassis here. I'm going to take a good chunk of this off right here, and that's going to allow for a better approach angle, so that that's not just slamming up into every obstacle you come into. That's going to do a couple things for me now. First off, again, like I said, it's going to improve the approach angle, and also it's going to allow me to do a steering mod that I'm going to try on this one. I've used the hot racing mod before, the hot racing steering system that uses bearings and is much better than the stock system, which tends to bind up and wear out and get a lot of slop. But this time I'm going to get rid of that entirely, and I'm going to go with a front mounted servo and direct steering. I've got a servo mount that my brother printed on his 3D printer. The file was on Thingiverse. So by removing the brick and getting this, I'll have room to mount this up here and room to install the steering linkages in front of the axle in the front. Now, when you're removing the brick on the front of the chassis, there's several ways of doing it. Some people use a hacksaw or some other handsaw, or a Dremel or other rotary tool. I like to use these metal saw blades on the rotary tool for cutting the plastic. It tends to work really nice. You get a decent cut and pretty quick and easy to control. Alright, another issue with these is in the gearbox here. The gears tend to skip after a while. A lot of the times that's because this gear cover, the screws back off, or they're not holding tight enough, and it warps a little bit and the gears will skip. So to remedy that, I didn't use the kit supplied screws, which are only about 10mm long tapping screws. I used some 15mm machine screws for these three holes here. Those will go all the way through to the other side, and used some M3 lock nuts so that the cover stays good and tight and those screws aren't going to back off. In the front, it would take an awful long screw to go all the way down, so I used about a 20mm machine screw to get a little bit more bite in there than that 10mm screw on that front piece, and that should hold that cover nice and tight and keep the gears from skipping. I also went with a 45 turn motor instead of the stock motor. Slow this down just a little bit. It's still probably going to be too fast for my liking, but this should be an improvement going with a higher turn motor. I used the included plastic differential lock pieces to lock the front differential. So in the rear, what I did was I left off one of the spider gears, and I'm going to place that right there like that, and that's going to lock it and lock that differential right there without using any extra parts. When you're installing the screws on the rear differential, make sure you use some thread lock, because these screws can and will back out, and that's not a good thing. Alright, while I'm talking about the rear differential, another trick here is right here between this bearing and the differential, I put a 5x11 bushing and one of the 5x8 bushings in there to help keep the pressure on that, and so you maintain your gear mesh so that it does not move around at all. That's a good way to use up some of the old metal bushings that come with the kit when you go ahead and replace everything with actual bearings. As you can see on my old CC-01 chassis here, they're set up to run the rounded style battery packs, but I want to be able to use a regular squared off LiPo in this new one that I'm building. So I went ahead and with the Dremel I trimmed off around where the battery opening is, and also inside those gussets on the receiver and electronics tray. I went ahead and trimmed those off. I'll show you what it looks like now. So we've got the opening opened up there. I'm going to clean it up a little more. And again, those gussets on the receiver tray have been removed too. It allows more room and allows for the square LiPo in there. I had a set of 1.55 wheels and tires that I wanted to use on this build, and they weren't going to clear the original knuckles on the CC-01. So on this project I ordered a set of aluminum knuckles, TL-01 knuckles, because I know that these tires and rims clear those knuckles because I've got them on a TL-01 build I have. And the TL-01 knuckles bolt right into the CC-01 C-hubs, and I'm using the TL-01 or M05 style axle shafts in the because they're a little longer, and I'm still using the stock CC-01 dog bones in there. And now these tires clear just fine. I've turned them around also to allow for that front mounted servo, and in doing so I had to mount the shocks on the back side of the arms. I actually think I might have clearance to run them up front still around this, but I want to make sure that I'm not going to hit it when the knuckles turn. And by using these knuckles, not only do I have clearance for the smaller wheels, it also increases the track width a little bit, a few millimeters. And I intend to increase the back track width with some longer hexes to help even it out a little bit and make this a little more stable. Alright, thanks for watching. Again, this was just a few tips and tricks on building a CC-01 chassis, a little bit different than what's in the instruction manual. As you can see, mine came out much different. I'm using a Bruder AROX cab and flatbed. I'm still not done. I've got a few modifications I need to make. I need to stiffen up the front end and add some details along the side under the bed. But again, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.